Hi, my name is Dr. Kevin Anderson, and this is chemistry. Now, not surprising, but chemistry is not just a science. Part of chemistry is math. I know some may be disappointed with that and may hate math, or maybe you love math. But some of the first things we need to do in chemistry is go over some basic math principles, as well as some things that we're going to be using in chemistry throughout the whole course. The first thing we're going to talk about today specifically is the metric system. So what is the metric system? Well, I have it defined here. It is the decimal measuring system based on the meter, liter, and gram as units of length, capacity, and weight or mass. So what do we have to do with the metric system in chemistry? Well, I'm going to show you how we can interconvert between the different units of the metric system. But first, let's talk about the different units of the metric system. So I'm going to define the prefixes used in the metric system. You may all have heard of, for example, a milliliter or a milligram. Okay, so what is a milli in this case? So I'm going to go over all those prefixes now, and I'm going to go over the typical ones you're going to see. I'm not going to do them all. I'm going to do the ones that you're going to see most often. Okay, so first of all, there's something called mega. Now I'm going to put the units that mega refers to, and I'm going to show you later how to interconvert. And now mega is a 10 to the power of 6. Okay, you're not going to see that as often. More often in chemistry, you're going to see the kilo. Okay, a kilo is 10 to the power of 3. Okay, then there are some in between, but you're not going to see them so often. The middle one would be 10 to the 0, where there is no prefix. So I'm just going to put a line for that. Okay. So the next three are 10 to the minus 1, 10 to the minus 2, and 10 to the minus 3. There's our milli. So M-I-L-L-I is milli, 10 to the minus 2 is centi, and 10 to the minus 1 is deci. Okay. Now beyond milli, when we start to get into the light chapter of chemistry, we're going to get to much smaller units. For example, we will be talking about the micro, that is 10 to the minus 6. We may be talking about the nano, 10 to the minus 9. And a couple other chemistry ones that you may see along the road is 10 to the minus 10. Sometimes they call that an angstrom. I'm just going to write it down here. It is not usually on the metric system, but 10 to the minus 12 you may see. 10 to the minus 12 is a pico. And then this is as far as we're going to go. 10 to the minus 15 is femto. Now, what can we do with all these, and how do we interconvert? For example, how would we take 123 milligrams and convert it to kilograms? Okay. Let me show you some of the method of dimensional analysis utilizing the metric system. Okay. Now, I really encourage you to follow along and write with me, okay? I'm going to show you my method of dimensional analysis. You know, other teachers teach it similarly. I like to start off with what we were given, 123 milligrams. I draw a line beneath it, and then I almost box it, okay? Now, on the bottom of this, we need to convert initially to grams. Get rid of the prefix completely, okay? So on the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put milligram. On the top, I'm going to put gram. Okay? We got to figure out what number to put there. But what you'll notice is if you do a milligram divided by a milligram, the milligram cancels out. So I'm always going to be crossing those out as I go along. Now, we need to use the metric system I listed above to determine how many milligrams are in 1 gram. Or vice versa, how many grams are in 1 milligram. So I always have my students put a 1 in front of the one with the prefix. Then we go back up to that table that you're going to want to memorize, okay? 1 milligram is equal to, let's go to the milli. Milli is right here that I'm boxing. It is 10 to the minus 3 grams, okay? So that is going to be my technique. Now we're not to kilograms yet, so let's do another box. We need to cancel grams out, so we put the G on the bottom, and we want kilograms on top, okay? Now remember what I just said. You're always going to want to put a 1 in front of the one with the prefix. So we're going to put a 1 in front of kilograms. What do we put on the bottom? Let's go find kilo. I will box it. Kilo is 10 to the minus 3, so, or 10 to the positive 3. So you're going to put 10 to the power of 3 in for grams. Now notice what cancels out in this case. The grams cancel out. I'll cross them out. And what are we left with? I'm going to circle it. We're left with kilograms. Now you're either going to go to your calculator, or if you can do this in your head, we can go find out what number of kilograms is in 123 grams. So when you crunch those numbers out, you should get initially, without a calculator, we would get 123 times 10 to the minus 6. And what your calculator should have spit out would be something similar to 1.23 times 10 to the minus 4. And the units of that would be in kilograms. Okay, we have the metric system. Screenshot it. If you wrote it down, great. I want to do a couple more examples interconverting, maybe kilo to pico, etc. Just using this technique of the metric system. So right now I'm going to erase the bottom and we're going to pick another one. We're going to do something maybe in liters. Okay? And then I'm going to give you some homework for you to practice this on your own. Okay? All right, so what should we convert? Well, why don't we convert what you typically may see in chemistry? Let's convert 500 nanometers. Let's convert it to, just to be fun, let's go all the way to centimeters. So that's our question mark, okay? So remember what I just went over. We always start with the number that we're given, which is in nanometers. Okay, so the N stands for nano. We're going to make the box, the line, and what are we going to put on bottom? We always want to put on bottom what we're going to cancel out, nanometers. Let's always go to the middle with no prefix, meters. Okay, what numbers are we going to put where? I'm going to give you 5 seconds. You try to do it yourself. Okay, remember what I said. You always put a 1 with the prefix. So 1 nanometer, let's go back up to our table. A nano is 10 to the minus 9. So we'd put 10 to the minus 9 with the meter. Again, let's cross out what cancels. So nanometer cancels out the nanometer. Now we need to get to centimeters. So on top, we're going to write cm to get to centimeters. Bottom, we need to write m to get rid of the meters. Make our box. That's going to be equal to, so let's think about what goes where here. In this case, again, you want to put a 1 with the prefix, and centi is 10 to the minus 2. 10 to the minus 2 meters. Let's go cancel everything out. The meters cancel out, and what are we left with? Centimeters. So after we crunch this in our calculator, we will have an answer in centimeters. So I'm going to do it without a calculator. So in my case, you would get 500 times 10 to the minus 7. In this case, it would be centimeters. Okay. And we can move the decimal over. That's another lesson we're going to talk about in scientific notation, but that should also be equal to 5 times 10 to the minus 5, and that would be in centimeters. That's what your calculator should have spit out. And that is finishing our lesson on the metric system. A later lesson will talk about scientific notation in detail and how to interconvert. But again, your calculator should have spit that out. If it didn't spit out that number, I'll give you one other version that it might have spit out. So it could have looked like that as well. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the metric system, I encourage you to watch that video. That is our next video. Not the metric system, but scientific notation. I'll show you how to interconvert between non-scientific notation and scientific notation. Can't wait to talk to you again in the next video. I'm going to give you a sheet to practice using this metric system and some answers. So hopefully it goes well. Have a great day. Thank you.